Hello everyone. Now we will continue our discussion about the cost behavior. In this meeting, I will explain about the cost behavior approach. In the previous meeting, we already discussed how do we classify costs into variable costs, fixed costs, and semi-variable costs. And then we already also discussed how to spread or break down the semi-variable costs into variable costs and fixed costs. Now, we will discuss about the cost behavior approach. Actually, there are two approaches. The first is traditional approach, we call functional cost behavior, and then the second one is contemporary approach, we call activity cost behavior. Activity cost behavior. So what is the difference between functional cost behavior and the activity cost behavior? Before that, we have to know first the activity level. Yeah. In order we can distinguish, between the functional based and the activity based cost behavior. How many activity levels? Actually, there are four activity levels. The first level is unit level activity. The second level is batch level activity. The third level is product level activity. And then the last level is facility level activity. What does mean unit level activity? Unit level activity is the activity performs for each unit produced. Activity that is performed to produce for each unit produce. So the cost of unit level activity is influenced by the units produced. The more unit produced, the more costs, the more unit level activity costs. The driver, actually, we call the unit driver, the unit drivers. And then, what is the example of the unit level activity? If we are using the airline as the example, for example, the Garuda Airlines, actually unit level activity, in this case, unit refer to the number of passengers. So what costs, that is related to number of passengers. The more passengers, the more cost. It is providing the consumption, right? Yeah, the consumption, because the Garuda airline provide the consumption. Yeah. So the more passengers, so the more consumption will provide by the Garuda Airlines. Yeah. In manufacturing firms, yeah, actually the unit level activity, it is related to uh, using the material, direct raw material costs, direct raw material costs. Yeah. So the more unit produced, the more direct raw material costs. Or if the driver actually, for example, cutting, so using machine, so the machine hour is unit drivers. For example, to produce 1 unit, we need 2 machine hours. So if you produce 1,000 units, so we takes 2,000 machine hours. Actually, cutting activity is unit level activities. Uh, Another examples, for example, the fuel, fuel for machine. Yeah. So, or electricity, if the machine run by electricity, like a photocopy machine, photocopy machine is run by electricity. So in this case, electricity, providing the electricity is unit level activity. So the more machine times, the more the electricity consumed, and then we will pay more electricity expenses. And then the second level is batch level activity. What does it mean batch level activity? The activity is performed for each batch of units produced. So the activity is performed for each batch of units produced. Okay. So a group, batch actually refer to a group, right? Group of units produced. For example, the inspection activity. For example, the inspections is conducted by sample. For example, we inspect for each hour. So the number of units produced for each hour might be different. Might be different. For example, in the first hours, the production is 1,000. The second hour might be 900 units, for example, and the third hour maybe 1,200 units. So for each hour might be different number of unit produced. Yeah. So actually, batch level number of inspection activity is batch level activity. The driver we call batch driver. In the Garuda Airlines or in the airline, for example, the batch level activity is fuel actually. Yeah. So actually, the fuel is not influenced by the number of passengers, but it will be influenced by number of flight, because the fuel for one flight, for example, from Padang to Jakarta, actually same fuel, whatever the number of passengers. Even though the airline has 50 passengers, 100 passengers, or 200 passengers, actually we have the same fuel cost. So the fuel cost is influenced by the number of flights. So more flights, more fuels, more fuels. So actually, providing fuel is best level, best level. And then the next level activity, and the activity level is the product level. So what does mean the product level activity? Actually, the activity is performed to sustain the product, So, what is the examples? Actually, for example, advertising. So the cost, the product level activity cost will be influenced by the numbers of product line. The more we have product line, we will have more costs because each product line will have advertising, And also another example is the engineering change. For example, we redesign the products. So the redesign the product is a product level activity because it conducts to sustain the product. In the Garuda Airlines, actually the product level activity, actually the number of road, the more road the have, actually the more cost. For example, the Garuda make the new road from Padang to Singapore. Actually, there will have a cost, more cost. But in the manufacturing company, actually the redesign product, it is product level activity. And then the last level is facility level activity. What does mean facility level activity? Actually, the activity is performed to sustain the general facility, in the production. The example, the providing, what do we call for example, the providing the building. So we need to depreciate the building. Actually, this is related to the facility, landscaping, security. So actually, the facility level activity is not, there is no correlation with the products produced. What how many unit produce the products? Any production or no production will not influence the facility level activity. That's why, because the facility level activity doesn't have correlation with the unit produce, with the products, so actually we cannot assign the facility level cost to product. So if we don't assign to product, or if it is not part of the product cost, so actually we have to classify as period cost and report in the income statement. So we report directly in income statement because we will have the same cost for every period or every year. So we just assign the unit level cost, bed level cost, and product level cost to product. Ideally like that, to get the accuracy of the product costing, in order to get accuracy of the product costing. So this is the facility level activity. So now we continue to the cost behavior. So if we are using functional based cost behavior, yeah, actually we link the cost to the unit drivers. So we just link cost to unit drivers. There are five of units. There are five unit drivers: machine hours, direct labor hours, direct raw material cost, direct labor cost, and unit produce. Yeah. As we already discussed earlier, why do we call the unit drivers? Because these drivers is influenced by unit produce. The more unit produce, the more machine hours, the more direct labor hours, the more direct raw material costs and direct labor costs. Yeah. So the cost that not change, yeah, related to unit drivers, we classify as fixed costs. The cost that change with the changes of the unit driver, we will classify as variable costs. Variable costs. Yeah. So in this case, yeah, for example, we have direct raw material cost, direct labor cost, setup cost, inspection cost, purchasing cost, material handling cost, and depreciation expense of factory building. Yeah. Now our unit driver that we use, for example, unit produce. So if we link this cost to the unit produce, yeah, as the activity driver outputs, yeah, in this case unit drivers, direct raw material will change, yeah, will vary, you know, with the changes of units produced. Direct labor cost actually the same, will vary or change with the changes of the units produced. Because this costs, yeah, are this cost is changes with the changes of the unit produced, so we can classify as variable cost. How about the setup cost, inspection cost, and purchasing costs, and also the material handling cost? Yeah. Actually, if we link to the unit drivers, yeah, the cost will not change. Yeah. Why the costs do not change? Because these costs are batch level costs. Batch level costs. So it is not influenced by the units produced, but will be influenced by the number of batch. Yeah. So the setup cost, inspection cost, purchasing cost, and material handling cost will be classified as a fixed cost. Fixed cost. Yeah. And then how about the depreciation expense of factory building? Of course, if we assume that we depreciate using the straight line method, yeah, so it is related to the facility level costs. There is no correlation with the unit produce. We also classify as fixed costs. Fixed costs. So actually, we can make the formula y equal a plus bx. So actually, this is single, yeah, regression, yeah, analysis. Yeah. It's more simple. Yeah. So what is the weakness, yeah, of this traditional cost behavior? Yeah. And the weakness actually, our cost estimation will be not accurate, yeah, because we treat the base level cost as fixed costs. In fact, yeah, when we, for example, when we redesign the products or we redesign the process, actually this base level cost might also change. Might also change. Yeah. And then to overcome this weakness, yeah, or limitation, yeah, actually we can use activity-based cost behavior. In activity cost behavior, yeah, we don't just link the cost to unit driver, but also to non-unit driver, to non-unit drivers. A non-unit driver, as we discussed earlier, consists of uh, related to the batch driver, the example number of setup, number of inspection, number of moves, yeah, move. And then non-unit driver is also product driver. Yeah. Number of product line, number of engineering changes. Yeah. Changes. So in activity-based cost behavior, we don't just link the cost into the unit driver, but also into non-unit driver, to non-unit driver. For example, we have direct raw material cost, direct labor cost, setup cost, the inspection costs, and also the purchasing costs, material handling costs, and the depreciation expense of factory building, same as the previous uh, uh, example, previous example. So if the uh, direct labor costs, yeah, we link to the unit produce, actually direct raw material costs and direct labor costs will change. So, and then the unit produce actually unit drivers, yeah. And then this cost, yeah, because change related to the unit drivers, in this case the unit produce, so we can classify as unit variable costs, unit variable costs. How about setup costs? Setup costs, actually, if we link to the number of setup, it will change, yeah, because the more setup costs. Also for the inspection costs, if we link to number of inspection, so it will also change. The more inspection costs. Uh, Purchasing costs actually same, right? Yeah. If we link to the number of orders, yeah, so the more orders, so we'll have more purchasing costs. Material handling costs is also change if we link to number of moves. So it's mean that, yeah, all these costs in the functional base is treated as fixed costs. In the activity base cost behavior, it is the base level cost will be classified as non-unit variable costs. So in the functional is classified as fixed costs, but in the activity based cost behavior will be classified as non-unit variable costs. Actually, if we redesign the product and need more inspection or need more order or need more moves, yeah, more setup, for example, so this cost will also change, yeah, yeah, change because they will change in terms of batch. For example, uh, for one batch of orders, let's say 1,000 units, yeah, if we need, let's say, 10,000 units or component, for example, yeah, one order, the maximum is 1,000 components. So if we need 10,000 components, so we need 10 orders, 10 orders. If, for example, we develop the new products and then we need more order, let's say 15,000 components, so actually we need more orders, increase from 10,000 to from 10 orders to 15 orders, because by making new products we need more components, yeah, from 10,000 to 15,000. For one order, actually, the maximum is, let's say, 1,000 components. Yeah. Yeah. Also, the material handling, yeah, material handling costs. And then the depreciation expense of factory building, it is not related to the products, so we classify as facility level cost, and then we also classify as fixed costs, as fixed costs. So the fixed cost is only for facility level costs. The uh, unit level costs and batch level costs are variable costs. But in this case, we have two kinds of variable costs. The first is unit variable cost, and the second is non-unit variable costs. Unit variable cost. So, so which one is high? In terms of fixed costs between the functional and the activity. Of course, in the functional will have high fixed costs, yeah, because the base level costs classified as fixed costs. In the activity, uh, base cost behavior, only facility level costs classified as fixed costs. So we can make the formula. Yeah. The formula is also more complicated. We are using the multiple regression. So y plus a plus bx1 plus cx2 plus dx3 and ex4 and fx5, for example. Yeah. So in this case, for Y is the total cost, X1 is number of unit produced, X2 is number of setup, X3 number of inspection, X4 is the number of orders, X5 is number of moves. So actually we have five variable in this case. So the total cost is influenced by five variables. Units, one units uh, unit drivers, and there are four non-unit drivers. The cost behavior approach will also influence the format of income statement. If we are using the functional cost behavior, so the format like this: sales minus variable expenses. Variable expenses in this case related to the unit level costs, and then we sales minus the variable expenses. We find the contribution margin, and then minus the fixed expenses, covering the batch level cost and the product level cost, and also the facility level costs. Yeah. So in covering three, yeah, batch, product, and facility level costs. And then we find the net income from operation. If you are using the activity cost behavior, the format of income statement, sales minus the unit variable expenses, and then we find the contribution margin, and then we minus the non-unit variable expenses. Non-unit variable expenses covering the base level and the product level costs, and then we find the traceable margin, and then minus the fixed expenses. expenses only related to facility level costs, and then we find the net income from operation. So this income statement will be deeply discussed in the management accounting course. So actually, this cost concept will also use in the next courses. Yeah, the next courses, the uh, maybe also in the budgeting, yeah, and also in the management accounting course. So that's all our meeting for the cost behavior approach, and then see you and thank you.